building trust and narrative and story should come directly from like a founder. Like that voice is so important. You cannot pie that off to an agency to do for you. I literally just got back from a run, so I'm like sweaty post-run hair.
So it was like a huge window with like toes written all over them.
Hey, we love a guy who's a bit of a silly goose.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back.
Okay, I'm also gonna cut this out of just reveal to the whole
I
world.
love the girls chat in between like the podcasting.
At the very beginning, when I messaged you in Figure Discord, I remember you were saying that you also studied fashion and computer science. You're like the only person that I've met that has the same kind of transition. If you talk to people and you reveal that this is your background, it's like, wow, fashion and computer science, how does that fit? That's usually...
Oh, it's literally what I get all the time. And then it's when I explain how I transitioned, like from my thesis, it makes sense from that. So like for me, it was when I was studying fashion, I wrote my undergrad thesis on the relationship of blockchain and fashion. And then my professor was like, this is really stupid. And because I'm very much like fueled by spite, I was like, cool, I'm going to go study computer science and build the stuff that I want to build.
Kind of similar for me, it's just that I didn't write my thesis on like digital fashion. I was kind of transitioning to UX and product design. So I went first to product design and then to computer science. But you also studied in New York, right?
I did my internship in New York for this fashion house called AFA. So I did wholesale and merchandising, and it was Jeremy Scott and Moschino, like Cedric Charlier, some like brands that I genuinely really love. Like I'd been a huge fan of Jeremy Scott my entire life. Like he was my favorite designer just because he's a little bit insane, and I love her a little bit insane. So it was genuinely my dream internship, and I was so grateful for the experience. But being like an unpaid intern living in New York, living off like $50 a week at one point, like we broke. And that's how I got into like knowing what Bitcoin even was. Because my friends in New York, they were all mining. And I was like, oh my God, it's too late for me to get in. Bitcoin's already hit like 8K. But no, it was not too late. And I'm very glad that I started to dabble in it back then. But it wasn't like, it didn't click for me then. Because it's like, oh, this is just... Yeah. Because also, I didn't really understand money. I was like 20 years old, and I was like, I don't understand how people make money from random things like this. And it took me a while. It probably took me about 18 months to kind of start clicking as to how it all came together. But yeah, New York was really, really fun.
I also remember I was terrible because I wasn't allowed to work because of the visa. I think I was living off of homemade cold brew coffee and yogurt or something.
Oh my God, I was literally exactly the same. My internship didn't even give us like food or anything. It was just like, oh my God, like that's what you need though when you try and start getting fashion. That's how they get you. Yeah, I was living off like ramen, like the coffee that I got for my internship, and like I was in New York. I was 20 years old. I was going out with promoters. I was getting those free dinners for being a girl at a table, and I don't regret it because it was actually really fun.
That's really funny because I actually did exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Same. I did that all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe we even know the same promoters. Do you know Zeke?
Yes.
No. Wow.
That's so fucking funny.
Tell me about Chipped and how it's going right now.
Chipped is going incredibly well right now. For what's next, there's some things that I can't quite share yet, but I'm really, really excited. We're going through like a full rebrand at the moment because before it had just been like kind of a bit thrown together, and now I've got like a small design team but working on full rebrand. So kind of like aiming to do like a relaunch, I want to say, in a couple of weeks. Working on just expanding the Chipped universe. Yeah, I guess I can start with how it got started, really. To be honest, I actually don't have them on. I'm fiddling with a cuticle stick, but I don't actually have my nails on today because I'm getting them done tomorrow because, got some eyeliner on my nail. I'm getting my nails done tomorrow because I'm going away for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So giving them a little bit of a rest. But normally I would do my own acrylics because, like, especially, it started about a year ago. I was in between projects. We were down astronomically, and I just didn't want to be spending. I love having my nails done, and I did not want to be spending upwards of $100 every 3 weeks to get them done. And especially doing sports, and I had to take them off all the time. It was just a lot. So I thought, okay, cool. I don't really have much else going on in my life. Let's just learn to do my own nails. So I got like the little lamp and the whole set off Amazon for what, $100 or something like super cheap. And it was just a really fun creative outlet and just like a fun little skill to learn. And I saw her on TikTok and like some of the girls on crypto Twitter as well, like Sage Storm. She's a really amazing nail artist who they were putting the NFC chips in their nails. And I was like, cool, I want to start doing that. So I ordered a bunch of NFC chips off AliExpress and just started doing that myself. And I have a massive hatred of QR codes. So especially like when you're trying to find the Telegram one, it's really difficult to try and find it because
It's so difficult.
it moves every time. There's a little witch who works at Telegram who's just like moving it around for us all the time. So I was like, why don't I just create one point of contact that boom, tap it, it goes to my Telegram. And then I did it with other things like going to like my Lens profile or going to like Favor Hey, like anything that was on Lens protocol. Sometimes rarely to my Twitter, to be honest, because most people like already, that was like the thing that most people already had if I was talking to them. And I just found it really fun. And it got people really excited by it. And I was like, cool, this is, and especially the girlies. The girls were like, can you do this for me? I was like, girl, I don't know how to do nails on anyone else but myself. So for me, it's like, how do I turn this into a scalable product? And that's when I approached Kiki World as a manufacturer to be like, just because I have never had experience in shipping products before, like physical product before. I'd only ever shipped like software and apps and websites and whatnot. So I approached them to help me with the manufacturing. And within like a couple of weeks, we had a working prototype. And then we did our first activation in Istanbul at Dev Connect, where we shipped like 250 attendees. And it was really great because we collaborated with Disco on this so that we could track the data points. So it was like a proof of IRL attestation that you got. So everyone would get an attestation in their wallet every time they tapped it and signed it. Like, cool, we met IRL and start building out those social graphs, which was they're secured off chain by your private key. So there's a full layer of privacy for that. So that was just really exciting to see the kind of way that people were using them. And like, I think we've got over like 1,500 data points created in 3 days, which is really, really quite cool, to be honest. And yeah, we've just been kind of iterating over the last couple of months, iterating on the prototype, making it work a lot better. Packaging is almost done, and yeah, and then should be shipping in a couple of weeks.
I also used to get my nails done, and like it's super annoying because it's really expensive and it's so much time wasted, and you can't even use your hands and like be on your phone while it's being done. It's terrible.
It's just like 2 hours, and I get like really antsy. It's probably like a little ADHD thing, but I like just being on like a meeting or watching a podcast and stuff like that.
Have you ever thought about tipping toenails as well?
I mean, I have genuinely thought about it. I thought it'd be really funny. I think it would just be a bit weird, like, because also I'm a runner, so having like stuff on my toes, like, let's be like, yeah, there is no way that I will be running with an NFC chip on my toe.
I'm also a runner, and they would just fall off before I could like.
I think it could be fun for an editorial shoot,
Yeah.
especially with like a man's really hairy foot, and like it make it really jarring. But it's just got like this NFC chip in the middle of it.
I'd love to see that. Okay, keep that in mind, please.
We have an editorial shoot in like 3 weeks. We do have a male model for it as well, so I think that might be really fun.
Do you have like beige, like almost invisible nails as well? For like the more, I would say the type of guys that don't like this image of like, oh, I'm putting a nail on my nail, or like I'm doing a manicure.
So right now it is mostly just aimed at women. It is like a female-centered product. I think women deserve that, and I think guys can wait a little bit before we get like a male-centered one, because also when it comes to like product development, that costs money. If men want that, they can pay for the product development of it, or support us until that we're making enough to be able to go down that route. But right now, it is a girl's product for the girlies. Yeah.
The whole social graph thing is quite interesting, and like everyone is talking about it at the moment. A lot of people on new projects are approaching it from the financialization side of things. I'd love to hear what you think about it.
I think that everyone who's going with financialization first when it comes to building social graphs is missing the mark, quite simply. I think that if you are doing that, you are building just for this ecosystem, and you are not building for users outside who don't think of financialization first when they use social media. Most people, when they use social media, they use it for social media.
Hmm.
And I think if you're going in telling people that they're going to make loads of money from it, you will scare away 90% of users because it's talking about money to a lot of people is scary. A lot of people don't understand it, and a lot of people don't understand how they can make money or where money comes from. So if you would just lead with like, hey, this is a fun product that doesn't change consumer habits and actually enhances just the habits that we already have, which I want to do, which I think Chips does quite well. And then later on, you can lead that to, to financialization. Oh, like this is cool. This is proof of personhood. These are all people. These make great candidates to say for like an airdrop later down the line, and then give them the proof of it. But if you lead with the fact like, oh, you can make loads of money from this, and then they don't, it's like, okay, cool. Well, this is a scam. And I think that's just like if we're just leading with, yeah, I just don't think we should be leading with hyper financialization. I think we should be leading with like genuinely having fun as a KPI. It's one thing that I just think is truly, truly important and just genuinely miss. Like we're very much just building on like a very, well, a lot of people think is a very right curve way of looking at social graphs. I think even like telling people that they own their data is even too much. It's about how do we build non-threatening blockchain products that like just make everything invisible and seamless. And the whole focus is on like being a human being and a human experience. I literally just got back from a run, so I'm like sweaty post-run hair.
It's cool. I like it. It has lots of volume, to be honest. I wanted to talk also about like your persona, your online persona, because personal branding and like digital identity is such a big thing. And what's the difference between Winny.eth and the Winny I'm talking to right now?
I find it really funny that like because most people know this, but Winnie isn't my real name. It's my pseudonym. It comes from my last name. Like growing up on sports teams, you get those like last name nicknames. And I think it's really funny because I created Winnie as a persona to get. I was like a really nervous, like really anxious kid, and I was not able to do like public speaking or anything like that. And I grew up online. I was like a Tumblr girl. I have just always either spent my entire life in some version of a metaverse, like Animal Crossing or
Hmm.
Tumblr or whatever. But always like the pseudonymous ones. Like I was like again, it's pseudo on Tumblr as well. But I just kind of created this thing to be like, I don't know, just as I think it is authentically me.
Yeah.
It is, but I created it to be like a vessel to be able to do that. And without being scared, or without it being like, I grew up on a really tiny island, and it's like it was like incredibly judgy. It
Mhm.
was, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't even have a hobby without someone calling you a loser. And yeah, it was so like Winnie was just like my escape. And I didn't anticipate growing a Twitter following when I got started on crypto Twitter. I guess it just kind of happened. I did just throw shit into the wind and shit post and just kind of yeah. I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but it's it's a really weird one because yeah, there is a difference between like Winnie online, Winnie talking. I'm talking to myself in third person, and it's really funny hanging out with my normie friends because they call me by my real name, or like some of them do, some of them don't. So I have to like I got used to responding to both. But when
Yeah.
I do introduce myself now, I genuinely only introduce myself as Winnie. And it's really funny. The first time that I did it was probably about like nearly 3 years, probably like over 3 years ago. And I was with one of my friends, and he was my neighbor. And he knew me originally as like my first name. And then when I started publicly going by a different one, and the first time I introduced myself, he was with me. And I was like, I'm Winnie. And he was like, are you sure about that? Are you sure? Because I said it with like not enough confidence.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm Winnie. I'm Winnie. Hi. And then that's just how it kind of went. Yeah.
I was super shy as a kid as well. And I kind of I had like this big change when I was maybe like 18, 19, and I kind of moved to London by myself and was forced to like really leave my comfort zone. In terms of like the personal branding and how it just so happened, I imagine that there are like people approaching you now to get like advice on how they can like manage their personal branding.
Oh yeah, I literally did a talk on it last week. And when I was asked to do it, I was like, I have no freaking idea how to build a personal brand. For me, it's very much, I don't know if it like it's come naturally, but I think it's just there's a lot of things that have like kind of led to it. Like I'm very IRL. Like one of my ENSs is Chief IRL Officer .eth. I just think I've just kind of built up like the personal side of it, where it's like I truly believe that the only way to build like trust in a trustless system is to to create that personal brand. But with me, I think it's very important to have the boundaries with it. Like I have a stalker and that's not fun. So
That's not fun at all. Oh my God.
no. So I have to deal with that sometimes because I'm very much a girl's girl. I will always support girls in this space. I've had like men pretending to be women in my DMs, and like sometimes it's been this guy who's like, who is this stalker, pretending to be a girl, knowing that like, oh, they've come into my DMs asking for advice. I will respond to that over like a guy coming in, and like that should be I should be more cautious of that. I really should, but like yeah, setting like setting boundaries is so important, especially when like people have really weird parasocial relationships with you. Like
Yeah.
that's something that I found has been really, really bizarre. I had someone come up to me in Denver and she was like, "Oh my God, like do you know who I am?" Like first of all, never ask me, do I know who you are?" I was like, I just without sounding like a dick, it's really difficult to like know who people are that you've never met before in real life just because you know of them online. And she
Yeah.
got really upset with me that I didn't know her name
Oh,
because I like interacted with a few of her tweets, and then she was putting like, "Oh, you got like we're girls, we should be supporting each other." And I was like, "Now that I've met you, yes, but like I got a lot going on." It's like, yeah, these parasocial relationships where people think they know you. I'm very open on Twitter, and I like to like lead enough to build that trust of like who I am as a person, but I do have those boundaries. Like I don't post where I am until I've left. I don't like I'm very cautious about like my relationships online. Even like my runs, I don't post my location ever.
yeah.
But it's really interesting. Like how do I share enough to be like trusted as a human being, but then enough to like protect myself? And it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I think having the pseudonym allows me to have that level of distance from everything. It can get weird.
I have a friend, she is quite big on TikTok and she actually started to get like really vulnerable like messages from people asking for life advice, sharing things with her where she was a therapist for some people that she didn't even know.
I have to be nice to everyone. Otherwise, like people would be like, "Oh, Winnie's a dick" in DMs, and I'm like, "No, I just don't know you. Why are you texting me?" Like, it's really hard to be like just. And so I get overwhelmed a lot because I have a lot of like I have like 2,000 unread Telegram messages. If a message goes past like the top like 10, I won't. It's gone. It's so overwhelming, and then like I get random people constantly messaging me, being like, "Why aren't you replying to me?" I'm like, "I don't know you. I have so much to deal with right now. Like I don't care." Like in the politest way possible, I do not care about some people because one, they don't care about me. I've had to start one of my friends pointed this out to me is that like I let people in like a lot of people will come into your life just to take from it, and a lot of people do not actually return. So if you're just constantly giving to people, it exhausts you. And I've reached that point like a couple of weeks ago where I just realized that most people in my life were just in my life to kind of take from me and actually not providing me anything back. So I've just had this massive drawback in like just a reevaluation of how much that I give to people, especially now with everything that's going on with chipped and gossip. I have to kind of have to be selfish for once, and I'm not very good at that. And I think I'm a middle child. I'm very much been like deprived of like a lot growing up and like always had to like look after my little brother and stuff like that. And I've always been very much the mother of my friendship group. And I've always been, and in relationships, I've literally only ever dated men where I've been their friggin' mother. And I'm like, hey, no one's ever looked after me. And like the only person who looks after me well is me. So I'm really just kind of focusing on that right now and just looking after myself.
Sounds healthy, to be honest. We were kind of talking about like things that I wanted to discuss, which is about marketing in Web3. So I would love to know, like, how did you see things changing?
I'm trying to remember like what 2021 marketing was like. 'Cause like I only got into marketing in crypto in 2021. So I was more just like very passive prior to all of that. And in 2021 we founded Schiller.xyz, which was like a marketing and growth agency. And agencies should be used as support, not as a full narrative when it comes to using your product or like to marketing your product. The building trust and narrative and story should come directly from like a founder. Like that voice is so important. You cannot pie that off to an agency to do for you. You need to have someone in-house managing your accounts. And like this has just been the most, especially when you have an agency and that social media manager is on 6 different accounts. You
Yeah.
think they have the capacity to be different brand voices and to execute in a way and have that exponential growth that you're paying freaking 40K a month for? No. Hire like hire internally, get someone who's aligned with the vision, or
Mhm.
like do it yourself. Like because and that's where I just see so much frustration with people trying to grow their accounts is because they don't have authenticity. Like, and people can see that. Like, if unless you're offering something that's like very high financial gain, people are not going to care. There's just by, yeah, there is so much about marketing in crypto that is just, it's exhausting to witness it all at the moment and to be a part of it and to have to deal with people who aren't getting the results they want. But it's like it's not because people are bad at their jobs, it's because like it's laziness at the end of the day. If you don't have the like you have the time, people have the time to be on Twitter to build that trust. Like I think one of the reasons that like I love Rainbow, like for example, as a wallet, because of how Mike is on Twitter, because of how aligned he is with the community, and just like the way, yeah, the narrative that like he has made for himself as the founder translates directly to Rainbow. Like founders are like, oh, I don't have time to be on Twitter. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Mhm.
Like you definitely have time to just scroll, reply to 2 tweets, or send out the odd post every once in a while. It's just like it's accountability as well at the end of the day. Like, oh, I can't be. It's not my fault if we failed because it's not because of me. It's because this agency didn't do well. And I'm like, wrong, huge wrong. I hate it when people come to me and like, oh, can you give us a 2 month strategy? It's like, no, that's gonna be dead in 2 weeks. Like, you
Yeah.
cannot. And like that's also why it's really important to have people in house is because these things change so quickly. You need someone who is on the ball and focused just on like what is going on.
And I found this to be like one of the biggest challenges. It's like, oh, but maybe the reason why I feel slightly uncomfortable to run it this way is because I feel uncomfortable with the way that maybe I don't accept the way that I am in a way. So that's been really interesting. B, what represents yourself best?
I kind of just go with the whole the nothing's real mindset. Oh, it doesn't matter, nothing's real. I can just send tweet.
I love that. And the thing is, no one's going to remember that one tweet that sounded weird. And like, maybe it's actually good because if you are weird as a person and you want to be yourself, then you should send weird tweets.
Yeah.
That's what I'm also telling myself. So,
I just like I'm a little bit insane, and I'm okay with that. I just like I kind of have to embrace it. I'm like, hey, everyone's a little bit insane, and if I can encourage everyone else to just be a little bit insane, I think the world could be a better place.
thank you for joining. And next time we speak, it's going to be you, me, and Taco. See you in New York. I'm going to text you. Have fun in LA.
Talk to you soon.